So today's class is on methods and objects. I have touched base on objects before, but it was a overkill at the time. Today would be the best day to go over it. And one of the most important things that you'll be working with is called methods. There's not a whole lot of technical information on methods. Uh, I've actually given you the most difficult bits of Java, which is if statement, for loop, and arrays and collections. If you got those and you keep practicing those, the rest is just gonna be easy and it's gonna fall in place. So what do we have today? Before we get that, if you did not turn in your homework, that's fine. You can still do that later. I have not had a chance to grade or look at anybody's work yet. So in that case, you're not behind. The homework was a bit challenging, even though I went over everything, but I understand that, you know, um, you're probably going to be stumbling on it a bit, and that's totally okay. You're not going to miss out anything because we can meet up again later on uh, down the road and go over some of this homework things and stuff. And um, I'm available to also sit with you, even if the whole class doesn't attend. So if you feel like I need help, uh, don't feel bad that, oh, I am the only person going to be taking up Stein's time. I don't want you to think it that way, okay? I am investing my time in you because I want to see you successful. And I am not going to be successful until you are successful. So until you get that job and you keep that job. So it doesn't matter how long, how much time I need. I need to get you there. And looking at this point, it seems like the roads are changing, meaning everybody is learning at a different pace now. I see some are fast, some are behind, some are slow. Um, so this is going to happen, and there's nothing to panic. And as we go towards Selenium, it's going to be more so. Some of you will kick off like, I got this. And I might just say, go to the interview right now. I'm going to give you some companies and resumes to work with, and and then I will be working with you independently, individually on market. How are you going to go into the market? Where are you going to upload your resume? All of that, I'll be working with you individually. So because chances are, uh, all 4 or 5 of you, including my wife, you're not gonna uh, be able to go to the market on the same time, and that's totally okay. I myself, I quit when I went to the program myself. Um, about 70% into the program, right after Java, halfway into the Java, I quit because I wasn't understanding and the teacher was bad. And I thought, okay, let me just do the principal certification. Let me focus there, which I did, studied 2 months and did that. But when I came back, I was like, I missed my group. And I had to start that program again from Java. So the second round, when I went back into the program, I was 100% devoted. And right after I finished the program of Selenium class, uh, the training center was already telling me that you need to go to the market. You don't need to wait till you finish. But I was like adamant. I wanted to do this, finish this, feel more confident, then go to the market. But they were like, they can pick saying, hey, you're gonna get the job and you should go to the market now. Don't worry about the finishing the class. I mean, and some of you I already know who is gonna be ready in about a month or so to go to the interviews. But I'll let you decide that. I will probably even mention that to you when you're ready. Anyway, so um, the the gist of the story is I myself may appear so smart, but I've actually done the training twice because I quit on the first season, and then I went back on the second round and I was with a different batch, and then I finished the program and I was able to get the job within 10 days, uh, putting my resume in the market. So if you feel like I'm not ready, I need more classes, I'm about to start a marketing for my next batch, and you are welcome to join, and you don't have to pay any extra. Once you paid your uh, the $500 for the course tutorial, no matter how many times you take my classes with me, with no matter how many groups, you don't have to spend any more money. So, and I would love to see you, if you feel like I need more lessons and you want to come back on the next round to be with my next group, I would love to see you there as well. Just
I've already talked to a few of my friends and just people I know that were interested, and I was telling them about you. So I was going to tell them whenever you start getting ready for your next set of students. But yeah, I tell people that you're good, and they're like, okay, well, whenever his next class starts, let me know and all that. So um, I'll get you a few people.
thank you, thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that, and I'll keep you posted on when I'm going to start the next batch.
Okay, all right, yeah, and I'll give them your contact information. Y'all can talk and exactly when and where. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about what we're doing, and so people are interested.
Awesome. And it's going to be, when you get the job, this training is going to shine even better. So
Exactly.
my biggest thing is getting you to that job, and I don't care when, but I'm gonna get you there. That's my pledge. So thank you all, and feel free to pass out my phone number to someone who is interested. Totally.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't want you to get a bunch of messages from random people unless you wanted it. So I haven't yet.
Yeah, I want it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I'll give them your information whenever I talk to them next, and
All
y'all
right.
can converse and go from there.
All right. Great.
I think you need a different phone
Yeah, I might need another phone, and I've been.
before he gives your number.
No, I need just a few people right now until I get my new number.
Yeah, I have about 2 to 3 people, so it's not like a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
No, I welcome these messages instead of other messages. Anyway, um, so do that. All right, let's get started. Today's class, methods and objects. You have a project here. Let's take a look at what are you supposed to do, and then we'll carry on. So here's one assignment where you have to ask the user for enter a base. A user is gonna enter a base length, maybe like 20, 30. You're gonna ask the user to enter a height, and that's gonna be the height. This is something you have done before. You're just gonna modify things a bit. And then you're gonna ask the user to enter a shape to calculate the area, either a rectangle or triangle. Based on what the user types in, if it's a rectangle, you're going to display the area of the rectangle. If it's a triangle, you're going to display the area of the triangle. So over here, notice how it's written, the area of whatever the user enters, and then is, and then you got the calculated area of that particular shape. Now, there are some, I mean, you can do it on a same class the way we have done before, but for this particular project, I want you to do it differently. How? You're going to create a class called area, and you're going to have a main method there. And you're going to create another class called calculations, and you have to house two methods there. One is the method to find the area of a rectangle. The other one is going to be the method to find the area of the triangle. Notice that these two methods are going to be in a separate class called calculations. And from that separate class, you're going to call these methods with an if statement into the area class, from the area class. And then you're going to display the area to the user. So you're actually going to be handling two different classes. Now, in the calculations class, you're going to have something called a static method and a non-static method. And this is what I'm going to show you, what that means and how you have a method. If it's a static method, how do you call that method? And if you have a non-static method, how you call that method. If you can understand this much, this is huge. Not a lot of notes or study materials. It's just psychological concept that you have to embody in yourself. On the tools, I have some notes. This page is still under construction. These are coming from copies of the arrays, so just ignore all of that. I'll delete it at the end of the class today. Instead of me going here and doing this, let me go ahead and type up the notes in here, create a class, and go from here. Another Java project, methods and objects. Creating a package called methods and objects. And creating a class called class practice1. Okay. Or let me see. Class practice1. That's fine. Practice1. And going to add a public static void main. And we have this. Okay. No problem here for you guys? And
No.
good. Let's do some notes here. What is methods? Methods, you have been working with methods already. Can you give me an example of a method?
Like, well, almost anything is a method. Like whenever you put, I don't know, like when we were doing arrays, you do array dot or whatever dot get or dot put, or previously when we were doing like, you know, equals to ignore case or
right.
I mean, basically anything is a method when you're telling with the dot.
So
and
get, you said equals to ignore case dot equals.
Yeah. I mean, basically anything that we're using that's manipulating anything we're putting in Java is a method, right?
Correct. And
yeah,
how can we tell that it is a method?
It's with some sort of variable then dot.
That's a good observation. So we'll follow, generally we'll follow a dot. Which is dot get dot equals. Okay, what else? How is the case on this?
Oh, lowercase.
And if I
It
say
starts. Yeah.
dot equals ignore
Case.
case,
Yeah. It's
what type of case is this?
what was that? There was a specific term for that. I forget.
I think it's camel case.
Right, Tribus. It's camel.
Camel case.
Got
Got it.
CAMEL and then case.
Cool.
Method has to be camel case. What else do you notice in this method?
Parentheses.
Parentheses. Methods when called must end with parentheses, right? So those are the three things. If you notice anywhere, it's gonna be a method. For example, it has a dot, it has a camel case, which is dot equals ignore case. This one is not camel case because it's only one word. Now, if I were to add more words in here, those would be uppercase right here. But because it's only first word, one word, then it's lowercase. It looks like the whole thing is lowercase. But the standard is, if there's more than one word, it's gonna be camel case. So it's gonna end with parentheses. Now, these parentheses may have some information in it. Sometimes they don't. That depends on the method, which we'll talk about shortly. Right? Do you remember dot print? System
Yep.
out dot print ln. Print. Look at this, capital L N. That's camel.
Yeah, that should be a method too.
With the parenthesis, but this parenthesis checks some information. You would say print this. Okay, so this method takes some information and displays it to you. Some methods can take some information, others don't need to. That depends on who made the method, who created it, and what they wanted for that method to do. Any question about identifying a method?
No questions.
All right. Now, the whole reason for methods, so the purpose is reusability of repetitive code. If you have a block of code that you want to use over and over again, it's better if you put it under a small little spell, if you like to call it. Okay? This dot equals ignore case, if you actually look up the code for this tiny little thing, that's gonna be maybe 10 lines of code. So instead of you doing 10 lines of code, somebody wrote a code for you, a spell for you, which all you have to do is just use dot equals ignore case. That's it. It makes your life easy. Okay. The other purpose is organization. Organization of code. You organize it. You don't have to have all your code in the same class. So place codes in different classes, right? The whole thing is about this, that you have been living in one room pretty much. For example, class practice 1. And now, today is your day to graduate out of one room and be a part of a building which is called methods and objects. For example, let me open this up. If control statement is a building, class practice is a floor, first floor, and homework help is a second floor. We have not been able to communicate so far between the first floor and the second floor. In fact, we have not been able to communicate between individual rooms. We have been just going to one room and do all our work in one room. But as a software developer, you have to be able to go around this whole thing, the entire building, and know where you have placed what. We have to be able to organize some things in one room, leave the other things in one room, put all the cleaning supplies in the utilities room, have an electrical outlet room. We have to have a kitchen. We have a mail room. The mails come in, and there's gonna be like a 20, 30 different things, different classes doing different things on a certain floor. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
And then on the next floor, you may have the executive team. And another floor, you may have the sales team. And they may have something that they're going to need and want every once in a while, and they're going to get it from those particular rooms that are there. And that's the whole point of methods and objects. So we'll show you, we'll take you there slowly, and how we're going to organize things. Particularly in Selenium, you're going to see that everything is placed in the right room, in the right bookshelf, and when we want things, we're going to go get things, right? And you can customize it the way you want to. If you feel like, I'm going to make it even easier for me, I'll do some things to do it. You can create it the way you want to. How are you going to create it? Let's see. There's more concept there, but I just want you to get a feel for it first. So over here, we know that if we did system out if we type in something like print this, okay, and if we run it, it's going to print this, okay? But I can actually put this in a method, and my reason could be, I don't want to type all this over and over. Why can't I just write print like this? And then print that. Well, good news, that can be done. And just give me 1 second. I can't remember the shortcut key for doing this in Eclipse, because in IntelliJ is Alt-Enter. Oh, if I don't have the shortcut key, watch this. This is even better. Look what I did. I wrote print, and then I wrote print this. And Eclipse is giving me an error here. But if I click and hover over, watch what it says. the method print, and then look what's inside the parentheses.
String.
Yeah, Eclipse is already identifying that I put quotation here, that I am putting string inside the parentheses. So he already created the structure for me. The print, and then what it's gonna take is string, is undefined, meaning nobody created it yet for the type class practice, which is the class which is right here. This is the class practice 1 page that we're talking about. So he's saying, I got a quick fix for you. How about you create a method? You have not created one. It doesn't exist. How about you create one? Now, the beauty of using this Eclipse little helper to create the method is your method will come out without any errors. And I would recommend don't do it from scratch. Always, this is called reverse engineering. You want a method, it gives you an error, and then you go create a method. Otherwise, you are going to have to write up the whole thing yourself. But if you choose this option, Eclipse is going to create the method, write up all the stuff for you, and make your life easy. As a matter of fact, when I work in my company with IntelliJ, I don't write up the method. I let the IntelliJ write up the method for me. I just go ahead and put some Intel or logic in it. So watch what happens if I click here. And I want you to keep your eyes on, let me open this up. Come on. Let me pull this to the right side. Mommy is not here.
Where's mommy?
In the sunroom. So let me just pull this right here. Here's the main method, guys, public static, and then this method ends right here. So just keep your eyes here. I'm gonna drop this bracket down. This bracket is the bracket for the class level. So keep your eyes right here. So if I click on this print, hover over, and it gives me create method print. And if I click that, look what just happened. We got a snippet. Okay. And let's talk about this. Let me close the doors. First, just for fun, here's what we're going to do. This gave me the same thing that this public static void main usually gives. And then it has that / to do auto-generated method stub. And this is where we've been placing our code right here. So what I can do here, before I explain this, I can just put my code right there. Here's what we used to do is system out, and we would have done print this like this. Okay? But we got tired. Let's say we got tired of writing system.out. Why can't we just write print and then pass whatever I want to print? Yeah, that can be done. All you have to do is do it the way you want to. You write it the way you want to. Let Eclipse give you this magic thing. And what you do is whatever code you had before that you had to do, you take that, cut that, and you paste it in here. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Yeah, we're with you.
It's that simple, except one tiny bit you have to change. Who can tell me what? Focus here. You have to change one tiny bit.
The println.
Almost. Let's marinate this a little bit, okay? Let's watch this, what happens.
Okay.
So when you run this program, Java is going to first look for main method, and he's going to come here. He's going to find this main method. He's going to go through every single line until he hits this bracket, and he's going to stop. Java will never execute these lines unless you call that method here, which we are calling it. So again, Java comes here, goes through all of these. There's nothing to execute. These are empty lines, nothing to execute. When he gets here, he's like, huh, you're asking me to cast a magic spell called print. I'm going to go see where that method is. Then he's going to jump from here, and he's going to come right here where it says print. Okay? And when he comes here, he's going to identify that this is what you're trying to call. Then he's going to go inside and he's going to execute this line. All right? So let me run this and see what happens. Here, I ran this. Guess what? It printed this right here. Print this. He came to main method. He went here. He saw you wanted to activate this method called print. He came right here, and then he went to this line number 22, whatever the code was inside. He executed that system.out.println, and it said print this. It got printed right here. You got that so far?
Yeah, we got it.
All right. What if I say, my name is John? And if I run this, what do you think is going to get printed?
Print this.
Right. Why is that?
Because that's within the print method or print, print class.
Let me see. Hold on. You're right. Well, that, and then there's any other speculations?
But when you're putting print, my name is John, there's nothing to it yet, right?
That's right. This my name is John. This method is taking this string with it, but unfortunately, that string needs to come to this particular place. Understand?
Yeah.
When system.out.println, this print this is hard coded right here. That means no matter what I type in here, it's not getting passed right here. This will, if I just say print, no matter what I type, it is always going to say print this. But I don't want that. I want my method to print whatever I type right here. You've heard of machines that have input and output, yes? So let's say you got a machine, you got an oven, and you put in a turkey, and this turkey cooks, and then output comes out a really delicious turkey, all right? So every machine, every method is kind of like a machine. You have something you put in as an input, and then you cook it, and then it comes out as an output. Let's take a look at where that input output is. A method, if method is a machine, method's input is right here. So there's a funnel, and there's is the input. Okay. So if you put this, my name is John, through the input, that word right there, string, is like the carrier of the input. Notice this is an uppercase string and this is a lowercase string. This is the variable type and this is the variable name. And you can change this to your preference. You cannot change this to your preference. It's like as if you were to create a variable. You have actually declared the variable name, a variable type and variable name inside this parenthesis, and which is a must. I'll talk more details on that later. So that name that you give it or the system gives it becomes the carrier for this input that you provide. And that should go in here and cook it and produce. So if I replace this print, this part, with this word string, then my name is John is going to be placed or stored in the word called string. And that string, if I type in here, will get printed out right here. Watch this. So if I just change this word, instead of putting print this or hard coding data, just say string, notice it just got highlighted. That means he was able to connect with him, meaning they are the same thing. What's happening now, this my name is John is getting stored in a temporary memory called string, and that string is getting printed out in here. Okay, you won't see it, but you will see it when I run the program. So let me run it, and notice now it's printing my name is John. Now if you don't like, now generally Eclipse is just gonna give you what, if it's a string, it's gonna say lowercase string. If it's an int, it's gonna be int, and then it's gonna give a I don't know, some sort of name that Eclipse will standardize. You should go ahead and change this name to your liking, because that's when you actually make this more readable. So I would write this like this. Item to print. Okay, item to print, or whatever you want to print. So that name, now my name is John, is gonna get stored in this item to print. And if I take that, copy that and paste it here, item to print is gonna get printed, which stores my name is John. And that's what's gonna happen here. So if I run this again, it's gonna print the same thing. And once you create this method, you can keep calling it over and over. Let's say I want to say another print, open close parenthesis, and in here I can type in my name is Emily. All right, notice I don't have to write this again. With this print command, he's going to come back in here, take this my name is Emily, and place it in this temporary variable called item to print. And this item to print is gonna get right here, and system.out.println item to print is nothing but my name is Emily, and that's what's gonna get printed out over here again. So both of these will get printed out. Watch this. With me so far?
Yeah, if we put that private static void print string method, the one that or the class we just created, if I put that at the very top as soon as I start running code under the main method, and then I put print my name is John, print my name is whatever, print I write a whole paragraph or something. Does it matter as far as syntax goes if it's before or after the prints?
So you're saying if you place it over here?
No, like if I put it right under the main method, you see right now how you have, as far as the lines go, you have line 23 and 24 are your print,
Yes.
and then you have this new class we just created.
Right.
Say I just flip spots, like I put the prints after. Will that mess anything up?
So you wanted this whole thing here. What if you were to place it here?
Right there. Exactly.
That's going to mess it up. And here's
Okay.
you cannot have one method creation inside another method. Okay, so this main method is already a method. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah.
Camel case. All right. Here's the parenthesis. And it takes something in here, which I'll talk later. But it is a method, and it starts with this bracket and ends with that bracket. Notice the same thing right here. Here's the name of the method, print. Here's the parentheses. Here it takes something. It starts with the curly brace, and the method ends right here.
So creating this new method, it just saves us from having to put system.out print ln all the time, basically.
Correct.
And then instead in the main method, we're allowed to just put print whatever for as long as you want to write code.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to understand the usability.
Yeah, one thing, this is the creation of the method. This is the calling of the method.
Got it.
You can call another method inside a method.
Okay,
You can
that's what I
call
was trying to
as
understand.
many methods you want, and we saw that we've been calling get method inside the main method. Call the dot equals ignore case inside the main method, no problem. But we cannot create another method inside one method, inside a method.
Okay, that makes sense now.
So if I delete this, now if you say, well, I don't like this to be down here, can I create it before here? Sure. As long as you're outside this bad boy, which is main method, okay, he's the boss. He's the system's boss. And even if he wasn't the boss, if you like, I don't want to put it right after, I would like to put this right before this guy, sure. No problem.
Okay, all right. That's also interesting.
That will still work. Now, as long as you don't mess around with this is already a method that has been created, and you're creating another one. You just can't create inside it. You can create outside it. You can create anywhere inside the class. Okay?
Okay, got it.
However, you cannot create outside the class. For example, if I take this block and notice this is giving me an error, he doesn't understand what that is now anymore because I deleted that. Okay? And here's the class ends right there. If I go outside the class and paste it here, it's still gonna have errors. Because everything you do has to be inside the class. There should not be any code outside this ending bracket for the class. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Therefore, I could just go outside this method, which ends right here, and put a couple of enter, and I can put as many methods I want in this space. And that will be totally allowed. Generally, it's nice to have the main method first, because this is where programmers are going to come and read this. They're not going to go here and read that. They're going to see, oh, Tony said print. He probably created a method called print. They will already know what you're trying to do here. somebody doesn't know, they're like, Tony created a method called print. I don't know how to do that. Let me jump into the print method and see how he created. What you can do is if you press Control button and hold it, and you take your cursor over this word called print, see what happens. It got highlighted, it got underlined, and it gave me two things: open declaration, open implementation. I don't even have to click that. I can just click on this print and it's going to take me where the print is. Why is that important? Because I could have maybe 100 lines of code and 100 methods, and I don't know where that print method is. I'm like scrolling up and down, scrolling up and down. I don't have to do that. I can just press and hold Control button, and if I take my cursor there on top of that and click on it, it will jump me to where the print method is. Questions so far?
No.
No.
We good?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting it. Yeah.
Okay. With this in mind, let's go extend our notes a little bit more. A method has two things. Method contains two parts. One is called method signature, and two, method body. All right? Let's take a look at what method signature is. Method signature, let me bring this guy back up here. Oh. Okay. Method signature is the first part of the method. All right. All the way from the beginning to the end of this first bracket, okay, or parenthesis. That's called method signature. This defines, signature tells you what type of method it is, the whole characteristics, so to speak, of the method. And the other part, method body, is the inner part of method, which is the block of code. Okay, so body is the block of code. And method signature is the first part that describes the method. Right. Now, what does it describe? We need to go deeper into it. We got, obviously, so far you know, method's name. And that's in Camel case, that's the name of the method. It's how we're going to call it. You also learn that method takes something. All right. And there's a fancy name for that. So let's go deep into it. Now we're going to talk about method signature. So contents of method signature. One, method's name must be camel case. Okay. Two, it's called parameters. Parameters are the inputs within inside parentheses. This. Okay. So what do we have so far? Method's name must be in camel case. We got that. Parameters are the inputs inside parentheses. So this whole thing, this thing is called parameters. Anything inside this parentheses are called parameters. So from now on, we're going to name this, I'm going to refer this as parameters. What are the parameters of this method? The parameters of this method is string item to print. It's going to take item to print whatever needs to be printed in here, and then it's going to print it out. So that's your parameter. Any question about that?
Nope, no question.
Number 3, we got something called modifiers. Okay, there's something called modifiers, and there are 2 types. One is called access modifiers, and second is non-access modifiers. Let's see what they are. Okay, what does the word access mean in English?
The ability to enter.
Correct. Permissions and so forth. This first part right here, look at the word here, private, and look at this word here, public. Okay?
Yeah.
So just by the word, what can you tell? Public and private. What does that mean?
Public has access for everyone.
Yeah.
Correct. And when you say everyone, can you take a guess? What do you mean by everyone? What is that everyone thing is?
In that class.
Yes. Meaning it's not people, it's classes. If it's public, you can access these methods inside from any other class, meaning any other floor, meaning any other room in that building. Okay? But if this is created private, inside this class called class practice 1, this method can only be accessed who has access to this class. What does that mean? That means, let's say you are an electrician in that building. You're a maintenance guy. And there is an electrical room in that building, and only you have the certification to go in there. You have the access key to go in there, that particular room where their circuit breaker is. And even the chief executive officer of the company does not have access to that room. And that room is right here. Okay? So that a circuit breaker room has been set to private, and you only have access to this maintenance room called class practice 1, and inside that there's this circuit breaker room called private. Only you can access it when you're inside that room, inside that maintenance floor. Okay? Otherwise, even you won't be able to access that circuit breaker room from another room. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Only when you are inside this class or inside this utility room, you can access this circuit breaker room called print. Otherwise, you won't be able to access this, meaning you can't call this method from another room or another class. It won't work. But if I change this to public, Now anybody from another room, a chief executive officer from the penthouse on the top of the building, would be able to use this method called print, and it will do the thing for him. But if I set this to private, only I will be able to use it from this class and not any other classes anywhere else. Okay, so just let that marinate to you. I'll show you in real life shortly. But these words are called access modifiers. It allows access, levels of access, provides levels of access. Can you think of a reason why this was created? What's the point? Why do we want to limit access? And why do we want to grant access?
I mean, whenever you're within your public method, you could have many different private methods that just, it might be the way just how you write code, and it's not necessarily necessary for someone else to access. And if someone else did have the access, they could mess up your main method. So it's better to just not allow them access into that private method at all.
You're right, Tony, and you mentioned a word called hide, and that is a big factor in Java. Interviewer will ask you for this word called encapsulation, which I don't want to. I have a class for that, so I don't want to go there. But just get your feet wet. That this hiding of methods and not allowing other classes to use that is a feature of Java, which is called encapsulation. More of that to come next week. Is something. It's a very good feature that Java has that some of the other programs languages don't have. So, and you will see the good benefit of this when you get into Selenium as well. Anyway, there are a couple of these. One is obviously you've seen called public. This public methods, meaning when it's classified as public, can be accessed anywhere within the project. Anywhere within the project. Shobuz, are you with me? I haven't been hearing you much.
Yeah, I keep myself mute. So.
Okay. Yeah, kind of quiet out there. Within the project. So anywhere within this project, you'll be able to use this. Okay. And two, you just saw something called private. And if it's private, can only be used within the class. Be accessed within the class, within this class. I won't be able to call this method in another class and use it. Nope, it's not going to work. Okay, if it's set to private. Well, is there any happy medium? Yes. There's something called default. This can be used. Let me just double check the notes real quick. Yes. So can be used within the package. What does that mean? That means if I have this code right here, I'll be able to use it within the package, which I'll give you an example for. So we'll clarify that even better. Default is used when you don't type anything. If you forget to type, let's say if I forget that private word, is the method gonna work? Sure. Is it gonna give you an error? No. What type of access modifier is this going to behave like? Default. Meaning anybody within that floor, same first floor, will be able to access that particular method. Okay? Let me put back the private for now. And used when no modifier is given. So if you forget to give a modifier, automatically it's going to be using what it's called default. Okay, so far?
Yes.
And one more. Okay, and that is called protected. All lowercase, these are. Uppercase will give you an error. Protected is similar to default. And in fact, it's probably the same. Let's see. Code is accessible for all packages and classes within the project. Oh, no, sorry. Within the package and subclasses. So that's another word that I don't want to touch today. So just remember that for now, can be accessed by all same package and subclasses. Same package and subclasses. Can be accessed within same package and subclasses. What are subclasses? We'll discuss next time. Did I ever use in my career this protected modifier? No. What's the most one that I use? Public and private. Did I ever not use a modifier and make it a default? No. It's either public or private. You probably will never use this. You might see it, but never use it. Okay? Any question about these access modifiers?
No, no questions yet. Just gotta study and memorize.
Yes. And now let me give you a bit of an example while this is still in your mind. So for me to set up that situation, let's do this. So I got this methods and objects. Let me, for fun, do this. New, I create a project and name it lobby. All right. And I have this package called, imagine this project methods and objects is like a building. It's like a hotel. All right, and this is the lobby. And then create another one called package called, we'll call it penthouse. Did I spell this right? Penthouse. This lobby needs to be lowercase. Refactor, rename. Cancel. It's kind of hard to do it this way with this zoomed in feature. Refactor, rename. Okay. Yeah, continue. We got lobby, penthouse. Let's create another one. called utility room. Okay. Utility room. Okay. Just for now, just to kind of ponder on this. So suppose I have a method called print in utility room. So I'll right click and create a class called maintenance cabinet. Okay, maintenance cabinet. And inside the maintenance cabinet, I created a method called print. And I put in print this. It gives me an error. I click on it, hover over, and that will give me, if not control 1, create method called print string. Double click, it creates it for me in private. Inside the block of code or the body of the method, I type in system out, and in here, instead of hard coding data, whatever this variable is, I just copy that and paste it right here. Okay. Now, of course, I'm able to use this print in here, but I won't be able to use this in another class from here. So watch this. If I go to, let's say, Penthouse, and this is where the executives are. If I create a class here called boardroom, okay, and have a public static void main here, okay. If I type in the word print, okay, and my name is John, it's not going to recognize what this is, okay. Now, the part is I have to explain what this next word static and void is before I can actually explain this. So I'm going to build on it. Unfortunately, the sequence on this is like really horrible. So so let me go back and then show you how we're going to make this work in here. But I do have to explain what these non-access modifiers are. Okay. Non-access modifiers, something that does not describe anything to do with access. Okay. It's not access level. It's other functions. Right. And one thing you will see is called static. This means it's stationary. It belongs to the class. It belongs to the class. And if there is nothing called dynamic. You might be thinking, oh, then is there something called dynamic? Because dynamic is the opposite of static. There is no such thing as dynamic. It's just absence of static. Or called non-static. This is confusing. Watch, but bear with me. Non-static Pay attention. Non-static is when I take this static word off. Understand?
Yeah, I understand.
That becomes a non-static method. Then you're probably asking, why didn't they just call it dynamic? Why didn't we go dynamic instead of static? Well, Java programmers are like, as they're always trying to cut down on words. They're like, if it's a static, it is a static method. If it's a non-static, instead of writing non-static, why don't we just take this off and we call that non-static? Okay, that is the reasoning that they're trying to use. So whenever you see a static, it is a static method. I'll talk about it, what that is in a second. But for now, just know, if you don't see the word static, then it is a non-static method. And I will ask you, interviewer will ask you about it. Okay, so non-static can be this one. Static method belongs to the class cannot be instantiated. And again, a lot of these words come in all at once. So it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant today. I'm sorry. Cannot be instantiated. And we'll talk about that shortly. Non-static method can be instantiated. Okay. Or the word I want you to think about is cloned. And I'll explain this also in just a few seconds. Let me wait on this void for now and elaborate what this is. All right. What static method is, if I say the word static, notice this error from this print just went away. Okay. If I take the static off, this page is giving me an error, and if I hover over, says a quick fix, change print to static. And then he's fine. What that means is that if you call this method static, you can just call the name print and it will go and access. If you don't call this method static, you have to access it differently. Okay? And the question is then, how? Let me change this to public for now in case it adds any issues. So I'm going to change this to public so anybody can access. And we're going to take this static thing off. Just 1 second. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're with you.
Then what are we talking about? How can I use this method called print without the word static in here? This is not something new, guys. You have used this many times with scanner. What did you do with scanner? You wrote scanner, and then you said magic stick, right? And then you said new scanner. And then you wrote system.in. And then you import it. And then you were able to use that. Can you remember something else that you had to do this same sort of writing?
Yeah, for array lists and all those things that we were doing last time.
So you were doing array list, and then you had this symbol here. You wrote, let's say, string. You gave it a name, let's say magic array.
Yeah, then equals new array list string open parentheses close parentheses semicolon done.
So you copied the first part. You did that. You did this, and then nothing went inside this bracket, and you closed it. You clicked on it and imported the Java array list.
Yep.
You've done this with hash set. You've done this hash map. Remember, these are all non-static. That means if you want to use this method here, you have to create a magic class of your own class, which is class practice 1. How? You would write this class practice 1. You copy that. Understand? You give it a name. Let's say something equals, you call it new. You say the word new. You take this first part like the scanner. You copy that. Paste it here. Open close parentheses and semicolon to close. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
What you just did, you created a magic stick called something, and that something is gonna have everything of this class called class practice 1, which is this class that we named it. You just created a copy. You just created a clone, like another robot. You cloned a robot. This class practice 1 was a robot a machine that you were building. And now you just created a clone of this class practice 1 called something. This something is gonna have all of those spells. And guess which spell is gonna have? Well, it's gonna have this spell right here, print. So if you say something dot, it's gonna give you a spell that you created called print. Right? So watch this. If I take this word something, put it here, and put a dot, it gives me a list of things, including something you created. List of spells. Let me zoom in more. Watch this. Don't look at these. These come with the system. But pay attention to this one. Class practice 1. Look, you created that. Didn't you create this word right here? Do you remember me typing this one? Item to print?
Yeah.
Guess what? Whatever I type in here on item to print in that method signature, it's going to show up on the book of spells for that particular class. This is how these systems methods were created by other engineers. Okay? It is very important that you make this word cleaner. Instead of saying string, if you say item to print, whoever is using this method, is going to be easy for them to understand what to pass in here as a parameter. And therefore, these are much preferred than the other one. So if you take this now and hit enter, let me X out, and look at this. something dot print an item to print, if I put a string right here and say print this, this guy still has problems. This guy doesn't. If I comment those out, run the program, this one has some issues. Comment that out. Go back in here and run it. Gave me print this. Type in here, this is Java class. Run this. It will print this is Java class. Okay. Let's toggle back. If I write the word static here, it's not gonna let me do that anymore. Now this is gonna have an error. And if I run it now, it's not causing an error, but it will, it should cause an error here. You have to, in that case, you're gonna have to use directly like that, called print, and then be able to print it. I don't know why Eclipse is not giving you these errors with this, but just don't learn that. It's probably not some issues with it. But so I want to reiterate this, that there is two ways for you to use the methods. One is called static method. If it's a static method, you don't have to create an object. This is called creating an object or cloning your particular page that you have, and then creating a magic stick, then putting a dot to find what are some of the methods, and one of them is this. But if you don't add the static, then you have to do that. You won't be able to use it like this. Okay? Now let's elaborate on this a little bit more. Suppose I have this method called public static print, and then I have it here. Now obviously it's pretty clean. You can use this method called print from here, and I'm going to take this class thing off. Suppose it's static. It belongs to this class. If I wanted to use this method, print, and because it's public, I should be able to use it from a different class. And let's say we're going to go to this boardroom, and we want to use this class, this method from this room called boardroom. An executive wants to use it. How are we going to do it? Well, you have to know where is what, first of all. You have to know that this class practice 1 has this method called print and what type of method that is. If it's a static method, you don't have to create or clone, create an object for that particular class, which is called class practice 1. You can just call this method. However, you have to put the name class practice 1 with that name in capitalization and then call print, and that's going to work. So if I just say print, it's not going to work. Excuse me. If I just say the word print, printing from the boardroom, it's giving me an error. If I hover over, it says create another method. Well, I already created a method. I don't need to create another method. So what am I going to do? Well, I got this class practice 1. I know there is a method called print, and I know it's static. All I have to do is copy the class practice 1 exactly the way it appears. Spelling cannot be wrong. Class practice 1, and if I put a dot, notice it gives me these options. Let me expand this out. Class practice 1 dot, look at that, gives me an option. There's a main method there in that class. There is a print method there. There's something else there. You don't need to worry about it, but you notice that this is the method you created where it says item to print. So if you select that and hit enter, you have that method. Now it's asking item to print. What do you want to print? We're going to say, I am the executive. Okay. If I run this here, look at that. I don't even have the method called print inside this particular class. It's stored somewhere in class practice 1, but I'm able to go there and access that print because it's public, and I was able to produce this. Question?
No.
What if somebody coded that as private? So if I change this to private, look at this. If I run it, error exists. If I proceed, it's going to say something. Let's see what it says. Exception is thrown. Unresolved compilation problem. The method print string from type class practice is not visible. Not visible, meaning he doesn't have access. The access is denied. So this guy, boardroom, an executive from the boardroom, now does not have this access to this method in that other class called print. Do you any clarification needed on this access modifier, private and public?
I have can you go a little bit up of the code? I want to check something. Yeah, so you commented out that class practice 1 dot something, but how we can get that from the other, from Penthouse?
Yes.
How we can call that?
Yes, and I need to show you that, and I was going to. So let's say you don't want this method to be static. You want to make it non-static. Now, one is better than the other, and sometimes vice versa. Okay. Now you're probably already figuring out in your mind that static method is easier because you don't have to create something called this line. Understand?
Okay.
But non-static methods also give you some other options that may be out of the scope of today's class. We'll talk about it when we go to Selenium more. So let's say I make this non-static, meaning I took this static word off and we call it public. Still has to be public, because if I make it private, nobody has access other than this particular class. And now I'm not going to call it from here, but I am a board officer and I'm in this boardroom, which is right here, and I want to access this something called print. Notice, even though I said class practice 1 dot print, it's giving me an error. If I hover over, it says either you change print method to static, meaning if I click here, he's gonna go to this class and he's gonna change and he's gonna put a static word right in there. Watch this. Look, he took me back in that class practice, and he arbitrarily added this word static in here to make that method static. I don't want to do that. What if I didn't want to mess up things and change them? Well, I can't use that class name dot print because this method is it's non-static, meaning it does not belong. See this? Static means belong to the class. If method belongs to the class, you can just call the name of the class and then put a dot, and it's going to give you what methods that are there. Because it's non-static, if I call the name of the class, it's not going to give me now. Watch. If I put a dot, look at this. Do I have that method available anymore?
No.
I don't. The print method is no longer available under this name class practice 1. But if I took that static word, if I put that static word back in here, now this method is static, meaning it belongs to this class. And if I now put a dot, guess what? It just arrived in the one of the methods listed under that class called class practice 1. With me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're with you.
So you have to master the skill of this accessing methods in 2 different ways. All right. So the easy way is, if you don't know better, just easiest thing would be call it static. Always say static. Always say the word public. And if you do that, you can go to another room and just name the class, which is class practice 1. And if you put a dot, they will give you the book of magic spells, and whatever method you wrote, it's gonna be there for you to access. So if you click that, select it, and in here you type in whatever you wanted to print. Print something else, and if you run it, it's gonna work. The first one printed I am an executive, and print something else. Now, you also have to master the non-static way of printing. We're going to take a break in 10 minutes. So the non-static way, again, practice will make you perfect. That's it. All you have to do is don't put the word static in that method. That's number 1 thing you have to do. And then you go into this wherever you want to use it. Obviously, it's going to give you an error. Let me just comment it out. Okay. You have to create a clone of that class. Okay. You have to create a clone of that class. How? It's like Rapunzel. Same word twice you can say. Class practice. This one has to be same spelling as that class practice 1. Class practice 1. Now you want to name whatever you want to name it. That's up to you. Generally, it's like scanner. You would write this word, same word with lowercase c. So copy that. Or you know what? I'll just say object 1 or clone 1 for now. Clone 1. We just cloned it. And it's not cloned until you finish this part. Here is the power. You're giving it the power to clone with the word new. And then you copy this. You created a new version of this class called class practice 1. And you gave that version to this guy called clone 1. Hover over Um,
I think P need to be uppercase.
P needs to be uppercase. Notice that I does not recognize. There you go. Did you just see what happened here?
Yeah.
Let me take that off.
Yeah.
Copy this back here. Copy that here. It's giving me an error. What do we do for scanner? Don't we click on it and hover over and import something?
Mm-hmm.
If I import this right now, watch this. It says import class practice from the package called methods and objects. Just like java.util, it's asking me to import, meaning create a connection to that particular class. And he's going to create clones of that class right there. So I'll do that now. Click that, and that gives me that connection, that imported connection, where that class is. Now, with this cloned individual, this guy, he has the access to all the methods that are non-static. So if I just write his name and put a dot along with some other things that he has, one of the thing in his list of spell, he has the one that we created inside that class as a non-static method. And I can take that and use that, exit out, and say print this now, and run it, and it's gonna print this now for me. So to sum it up, this is non-static, static way of accessing methods. Okay. And this non-static way of accessing methods. Two parts. One, I will never say clone anymore, guys. I'm gonna say create an object. You just created, whenever say I create an object, you are actually creating a clone of that class. This will come more to you later. So create an object. Just like you create an object for scanner. Same thing, no different. And then call the method. This is called a reference variable. Right? The name that you're going to give is going to be a reference variable or reference to that class. Any methods to that class will be obtained through this word called clone1 or whatever you give it. Okay? Question before we take a break.
No question yet.
All right, Shobuz, you good?
Yeah.
All right, let's take 10 minutes break, come back, and I'm gonna create a calculator, something that you have done before, but I'm gonna have these methods in different places. And we should be good after that. I'll just explain the homework a little bit more, and I think that's it for today's class. So yeah, let's take 10 minutes break. Hey, are you guys back?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. All right, folks. Let's do a practical work, and then there is a couple more concepts within this structure that I need to explain. I want to do all of these in a separate project package called calculator. We're going to create a calculator that's going to do add, subtract, multiply, and divide. In this calculator, let me call a class called we'll call this calculator. Calculator, public static void main, and we have this. Okay. We're also going to create another class in the same package called calculations. Where we're going to do all our calculations in here. I don't need a public static void main here. So I'm just going to leave it just like that. Okay? All right. So let me go back to calculator, and in here, oops, the task is create a calculator that can do add, subtract, multiply, divide. Using user given input. Okay. We're inside the main method, and the requirement is two of the methods should be non-static, should be static, and two of the methods, the other two, should be non-static. Okay. Placed in a separate class. This is essentially the same question that's given in the homework for you. And we're going to do this here. Okay. So I have to take user input, two numbers, and I'm going to add, subtract, or multiply, divide, depending on what the user wants. So first thing I want to do is create, I'll ask the user system out right? And I'm like, I don't like to type system out all the time. Why don't I just say print? And I want to print. Notice I don't care about the error right now because I'm making the method. So I want to say enter two numbers. Java has a problem with that. I hover over and say create method print. And it created. I don't have to change this to public static void, nothing. Just leave it the same. You want to change this one to be nice, to say print item. Print item. And in here is where you're gonna write that entire line, system.out.println. And what's gonna go inside? Shobus, what's gonna go inside here?
Print item.
Print item. You take this
Yeah.
and you put it right here. Good job. That way, you're not hard coding anything. Whatever you pass here, it's gonna get passed here. It's gonna get printed here. Now, I am done, no errors. And I can keep on using this as many times as I want. My code is now simpler, easier. All right. So let's run it, make sure everything is working. Enter two numbers. It's working. Next line. I need to take user input. So scanner, scanner, new scanner, system.in, import. Okay. With this scanner word, I can have next. I want to say next double, because what if the user gives me a decimal number? This will be able to handle it. Now this is the user input, but I have to store this somewhere. So I'm going to put an equal sign here to store all of these on a variable name I'm going to create and put it right here. So we're going to call, because this is going to store double, I'm going to create a variable or a memory called double and give it a name. Since we are taking two numbers, might as well call it number one, num1. Question?
No.
Good. All right. And obviously I'm going to take another one. So I can just copy this whole thing, since I'm going to take two numbers, paste it here, and call the second one number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this double, number 1 is storing one value, number 2 is storing another value. Run it, make sure it works. Enter two numbers. Click here. 25. Enter. Worked. 35. Enter. Now nothing. If I type in, nothing happens. So it's working. It took the two numbers and stored it, but there's nothing else I asked it to do. I got the number stored, so we're good. Now I need to add, subtract, multiply, divide, depending on what the user tells me. With me so far?
Yeah.
So I gotta ask the user at this point, what would you like to do? Notice I can just type in the word print. I can use it over and over. It will activate this method. So I can just type in here, enter an operation. in the bracket, I can tell them what to type. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. And put a colon and put a space just for fancy's sake. Let's run it at this point, make sure it's working. So I got this 36, enter, 45, enter. Now it's asking enter an operation. And if I type in, nothing is taking because I didn't take anything yet. Now, I have to take the user input of either add, he can give me subtract, he can say multiply, whatever that he gives me, I want to also store that somewhere. What kind of variable should I store that under? Variable type.
Can you repeat again?
String.
String, because the user either is going to type in add or subtract or multiply or divide, you have to also store that. Always remember, any input you take from the user, you must store it. If you don't store it, there is a way not to store and work with it, but don't do that. It gets really tricky for not just you, for somebody who is reading your code, and also for Java, it will be very tricky to handle. So always create a storage. Again, I'm going to take user input. So I create a storage called string user input. Okay? Or you can call it operation. User given operation. Okay? A big name. Here, you take that magic word again, scanner. Dot. You've done this before, so I don't want to spend too much time. And just click on next. Now it's stored that. Run it and see if it works. Putting a decimal, see if that breaks. Decimal is fine. And if I type in add, it stored it as well. Now, based on what I have here, I'm going to create some sort of calculation. All right. You guys done it, if statement. Let me do a switch for you. Shobuz, you attempted that as well. So this might double as that. Now, write the word switch. Did I spell it right? Sometimes I'm blacking out. Control statement. There. Switch. Okay, so we're going to use this format. You can even copy this. So if I copy that block of code, all right, let me not do that. Don't like the format. So switch, switch, open, close, go inside, hit a couple of enter. What you're going to type in this first bracket is what you got from the user.
Yeah.
Scanner dot next. You got this from the user and you stored it in here, didn't you?
Yeah, so the variable we're talking about is user given operations for the switch.
Correct. So you take that and you pass it right here. You now created a switch for that stuff that's in there. Either it could be the word add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And you want to create cases. Case 1 is add. So you type in the word case, and then you just write the word add. Put a colon, and here's your block of code. it's gonna go right here. With me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like what we're doing that homework assignment on, right?
Correct. And we
Yeah.
know
So
that every time we have a case, we also have to use a word break. And you also know why we have to do that. So here's my block of code, and I have to use the break. And my block of code, you would probably do the math right here on that previous assignment, but in this assignment, it's saying don't do it here, but create a method for add and subtract in a separate class called calculations. Okay? We're going to create two non-static and two static method. All right. So how are we going to do that? This is the class that we want this calculate methods to be. This is going to have the method called add. All right. Here's a method. And this method, you're going to pass two things. You're going to take this number 1. Okay. You copy that. Put it right here. And you put a comma. And you take this number 2 and put it right here. Okay. Now, if you hover over this error, it's going to tell you, hey, I don't know what this method you're calling, but do you want to create one? Then if so, you click here. If I click here, this method is going to get created right here. Okay. I don't want it here. So I'm going to delete that. Sometimes you want it there. But this question is saying, create the method right there where the word says calculations. Well, if you write the word calculations dot add, and now if you hover over and says create method, guess where that method is going to go?
Under calculations.
Under calculations. So if I click on it here now, watch this. There's the class calculations, and it ended up here in the method called calculations. And he is smart enough to also give you the access modifier as public because you're trying to access it from a different class. If it was private, you won't be able to. Are you with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
yes, we're with you. Pretty cool.
Okay. Now, let's take baby step here. What do I want this method add to do? What do you wish it did?
Add number 1 and number 2.
Add this one and give you what?
Give you the sum.
Give you the sum. Correct. We talked about input from the method. I didn't really discuss the output of the method yet. Okay. But this method right here, in this stop right there, we want this to add this guy, number 1, and this guy, number 2. And let's say we call it, we want to store that too. So I'm going to say number 1 plus number 2. All right, that's good. We added it, but we got to store it somewhere. Give me a name of the variable you want to store it to.
Sum.
Sum. What type of, what kind of type, variable type would you give it?
Double.
Yeah, double.
Also double, called sum, and then put an equal sign. And now you're storing this number 1, number 2, added together, and he's going to store it in a temporary variable memory called sum. Are we good so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. What you have to do This method, so far so good, it takes the input, but unfortunately, it takes the input right here. It has no output. It dies. It stores it right here. Nobody gets anything, and it just dies, right? What are you gonna do? You have to create an output, all right? And output is created in two ways. Two things you have to remember. One, this void means this method does not have an output. Void means no. Void means nothing there. Okay? Void, empty, same word. So whenever there is this word void, as soon as you see that word in a method signature, meaning this method does not give you back anything. Okay, this sum, the result of the sum, will not come back because it's void.
All right.
With me so far?
Yeah.
If you want it back, you have
It's like a void check, right?
you have to delete the word void and put what do you want back? What data type do you want it back? Take a guess, guys. There's only 4 data types I taught: int, double, string, boolean.
Double.
Because we want this sum back, we want this data type to be backing us double or return. Therefore, you have to cut this void off and write the word double. Take that off and write double. With me so far?
Yes.
Yeah, with you. So
That's your first part. Is okay, this method is not void. It's going to return me something. What is it going to return me? What type of data is it going to return me? You have to replace that word void with that word, that data type. The second thing you have to do, you have to use the word called return. Okay? Because that's your output. Instead of using the word output, Java uses the word return. Soon as you use the word return, hand in hand, I mean, if you use the word void and put return here, this is gonna give you an error. He's gonna panic. Like, what are you talking about? If you use the word double, that you are returning double, you have, if you don't use the word return, he's also gonna give you a panic error. Look at this. If I hover over, it tells me add return statement or change the return type to void, whichever you choose. Well, we're going to return something, and guess what? What are we trying to return? The sum. We added the first number, added the second number, stored it in a variable called sum, and we want this method to return, meaning the output, to be the sum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
we do the exact same thing we're doing within the calculations and keep on creating methods, except we do public static double, subtract, public static double, blah, blah, blah. And then when you go to the actual calculator, all you do is just call it.
Absolutely, Tony. That's how it's done. We're not going to write a whole bunch of code in this main method anymore. Main method, we're just going to call print. We're going to call add. We're going to call subtract. All the calculation stuff, we're going to let another class handle that. Okay? What we did before, we had our executive, chief executive officer, and janitor, and housemaid, and everybody in the same room. But now We're not going to do that. This is going to be our chief executive officer. He's going to call these people in a different floor, like calculations. And all of that is going to be stored over there. Okay? All the food items are going to be in another class called food. All the kitchen items are going to be there. Understand? Instead of having all of these things in one room. This is main method is where the head of the company is. And from the head of the company, they're going to call into different classes and different methods, and they're going to run those things. Okay? Question?
No, no questions so far.
All right. So notice he is happy now. No more errors because we went and fixed this in a way that it's not going to give you any errors. But don't we need to print this out? Or do you want to save it and then print it? Your choice.
Okay.
Calculations.add is only going to take these two numbers.
Yeah, it's not going to print out the output though.
It's not going to print out. It's going to go in here. He's going to take number 1, number 2, add the number 1, number 2, put it in the sum. Let's say this is 2 and 3, comes to 5. Put it in the variable called sum. Return sum, meaning it's going to return back 5. That means this code right here, all of that is going to dissolve and become 5.
Okay.
That's it. This whole thing, if I put in a 2 here and a 3 here, this whole thing is going to dissolve and become 5. Now, it's your choice. What do you want to do with that 5? Do you want to store it, then print it, or do you want to print it directly? That's your choice.
Okay.
Tell me what you want to do.
We can just print it directly.
Sure. If you want to print it, don't we have a method called print?
Yeah, so you just do print sum.
I would have to do, okay, let me store this, okay?
Okay.
And then I'll break it up. What kind of variable type should I store this into?
Double.
Good. And give it a name. How about result? With me so far?
Yeah.
Can I now print what?
So we call it
Sum.
no result.
Oh, result. Oh, it's a result.
Remember that calculations.add took the two numbers, added, and gave me this whole thing will become 5? And that 5 got stored in a variable called result. And if I print that result here, it's going to print it out. With me? All right. So let's do it this way first. Baby step. If I say result, and here calculations dot add num1 and num2. And,
Why is it giving error?
and this print is giving me error because if I hover over, before I do that, can somebody tell me why? Take a guess.
I think we need to call another method for the print to print double.
You're right, Trobus. Why?
Because we only have a string.
Yeah.
This method takes what?
String.
And this, I'm passing what?
Double.
Double. He has a problem with that. So if I zoom in here, you will see it says print string in the type calculator is not applicable for argument double. So here's what option we have. Change method print to double. If we change that, that's going to mess up the other print that we're using with the string. So we don't want to do that. Change type of result to string? No. Our result is in double. The 5 is in double. We don't want to change that to string. Create method print with the double?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one.
Last one?
Yeah.
We don't mess up the one we already have with the string.
Exactly.
We don't change the type of the variable we're getting out. But what if we created another one called print? Same name. Is that going to be allowed?
It should be. Yeah.
Yes. But if I were to change this to string and have the same thing here, look,
Yeah. No,
now I have
for sure.
two methods. One is called print, the other is called print, and we have the same input it's taking, string. And if I hover over, it says duplicate method. Now it's not going to be allowed. But you can create same method name with different parameters, meaning if this one is double, he is happy. Guess what you just did? You did not create extra name for method. You're using the same name with two different data type. And that
I
is,
have a.
go ahead.
Whenever we put double, can we use uppercase D double?
I've never tried it, but let's see. Now you're using wrapper class. I suppose it might work.
But does not wrapper class work on arrays, or it goes with any type?
It might give you some issues later. I have not experimented that enough. Okay.
Because string is a wrapper class, right?
Yeah, capital D double, it's a wrapper class. It's not primitive type. You can experiment with it, but
Okay.
I promise you, I have seen a whole lot of code and I've never seen somebody use capital D double wrapper class here.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know because string is a wrapper class, and if everything works with that, to me it would make sense that you could also use double wrapper class.
You could, and it might work, but whoever designed the string was designed in that with that in mind. But what if this double wasn't designed in that mind? Then it might throw you some errors later down the road. But
Okay. All right. Just one.
very good question, Tony, and you should pursue this, dig this into further. And at that point, you're gonna be more knowledgeable than I am. You will surpass me. But I encourage you to do that. You should. Anyway, so what you just did, this concept is called method overloading. Interview question must. Method overload. Okay. What you're doing is overloading method. You have the same name, but you're overloading it. You're loading one with string, you're loading one with double. The whole reason for that is you want your program to be simple. You don't want your user to memorize print double, print string. You're like, forget that. Just remember to memorize print, and my overloading will handle the rest. You put in a double, it's gonna take double. You put in a string, it's gonna take string. You don't even have to worry about whether I need to put a string, whether I need to put a double or an integer. You just call one method. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So method overloading is when same method name is used to create multiple methods with variation of the parameter, two things. Parameter data type. Notice you got a string type here, you got a double type here. That's one thing. You can also do it variations of parameter type or the number of parameters. What does that mean? The number of parameters. Watch this. I can have another method like this. If I copy and paste it here, Java is going to have a problem with that. He's going to say, nope, duplicate. You got the same one, duplicate. But of course you learned that I can change this to int and he's going to be okay. He's going to like, okay, you created one for string, you created one for double, you created one for int, I'm fine. You overloaded 3 times me, but I'm okay. But what if I don't want int? I wanted string, but I want another string. If we put a comma to copy this whole thing and paste it here, now he's happy. You just have to change this to item 2 or an item 1. You can't have duplicate there. He's like, yeah, I'll let you do that. I'll let you do that because, oops, I have to change this to a 1. He's like, that's fine because this one only takes 1 string input, but this one takes 2 string input. Therefore, they're not duplicate. You're fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What is the value in that?
There's no value in this particular one, but I will show you a value for another method. Well, you will see
Okay.
that overloading method like this. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Suppose user gives you some numbers to add. Okay. You can have a method called public static int add. Excuse me. Public static int add open close open close. Over here you want to take int num1, int num2. You want to add these two and return. So int sum equals num1 plus num2. Store it here and return this sum right here.
You put B on the num, yeah.
This is gonna, if you pass in 2 and 3, it's gonna add these two to 5, store it here, and return the number 5. What if the user gives you 3 numbers? Well, in that case, should I have a method called add 3 numbers? I could do that. Here, I could copy that whole thing and name the method add 3 numbers and call this one add 2 numbers. Sure. Notice I got this 2 parameters here. He has no problem because you changed the name. Yeah, I can have int num3 and then add the num3 here. No problem. But I'm like, Man, I add 2 numbers, add 3 numbers. Everybody has to memorize these and they have to know which one, and there's too much to write. Why don't I just call it add and let Java be smart enough to decide? No problem. Why? This one takes 2 numbers, this one takes 3 numbers, right? And Java will decide which one to use depending on what you want to pass. So let's look at an example here. We're going to pull this here. We're going to go to this main method. Right? I'm just going to block out this code here. Let me see where it ends. Block out this code. And suppose I have an int num1 number. Forget it. We're just going to call add. And I'm going to pass, excuse me, system.out print and make this an int. Over here, we're going to call this method called add. And inside, I will pass 2 numbers, 2, 3, and 6. Let me take a step back to show you what's happening. I am calling a method called add. Java is immediately looking at these 2. This one and this one. With me so far?
Yeah, with you.
Then he's looking at these 3 and 6. These are called arguments. Our arguments are the value passed into the methods. Actual value are the actual value passed into the method. So I am passing 3 and 6 as arguments. Java immediately goes here, here, and here. He found 2 methods. Now he's looking into arguments. How many arguments did he find? 1 and 2. Now he's back in here and he's looking for which one has 2 arguments. This one has 1 with a comma and then 2. This one has 1, 2, and 3. All right. Guess which one he's going to choose?
First one.
The one with the first one. He's not going to use this one at all. So because he got the 3 and a 6 or whatever number I gave you, 3 and a 6, he's now going to go in here. This will become 3. This will become 6. He's going to replace this by 3, replace this by 6. Add them up. It's going to be 9. He's going to store it in sum. He's going to return the sum, which is 9, back in here. This whole thing will become nothing but 9. And what will this print do?
Put it out. No.
It's going to print it out. So if I take this back in here, this whole add 3 and 6 will become 9 and this print will become 9. So watch this. If I run this now, come on. Some code is throwing some issues. Execute. That's weird.
Commented all of it out, right?
Yeah, I commented that out, so it's not supposed to have any issues there. Becoming
Well, what is the issue is having?
I'm supposed to print this. Maybe I need to.
Things about what they can improve.
Oh, okay.
Let me just create another class. Maybe some other code is getting infused in here. Example method overload. So I got this method overload. Retype this here. I want to call this system.out and add. In here, I want to pass two numbers, 3 and 6. Create a method. Notice it gave me these stuff already. I don't want that. I want it to return int. This is number 1. I'll just leave it the way it is. Here, I'm going to do result. By the way, you can do a shortcut like this. Instead of creating a variable, you can just add these two right in here. I plus j. And that's it. Let's kick this off and see if it works. We got 12. That 3 and 9 got added, replaced by these two. 3 is the argument passed into this parameter. 9 is the argument that got passed into this parameter. J, I and J got added. Result was 12. 12 got returned, and that whole thing became 12. The system.out.println printed out that 12.
So can you put the project static int add into the calculations class, and then instead, as far as this method's overload, we just put system.out ln calculations.add 3 and 9?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm just asking if that's also another way you could do it.
Yeah, this one is throwing some errors. I need to see what.
Yeah, instead of overloading the main method, you just put it into a separate class and just call it into the main whenever needed.
Yeah, but just to explain this to you, I can create another one. Just copy paste that. He's going to have an error. If I add one more, int k, and add the k in here, notice I did not change the name add.
Now, is there a way to where you can put in an indefinite amount after add, like add int I, int j, int however many the people want to add if you're having a user input via scanner?
Yes, Tony, and that's a very good thinking. And actually, can you tell me what data type would you use in that case?
As far as what the return would be?
Or what?
Yeah.
Remember how we did the for loop with a dot length?
Yeah.
That's what you are getting into.
Okay.
You're gonna use not a data type int, you're gonna use array list.
Oh, okay, then you would just do array list, and then your parameters would be I is less than whatever the size is, but size is dependent upon whatever user input is.
Yes, same concept. You're thinking in the right direction. You know your path. I'm really excited that you're asking these questions, but you're gonna find that in the Selenium class.
Okay.
Yeah. But just keep that in the back of your mind. It's coming, and we're gonna get there. Where we're gonna automatically add whatever the size is, and I don't have to specify even how many.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering if that was possible with this, or you got to do something completely different.
Yeah, it's possible. Anything is possible with Java. So now you have overloaded this method with this 3. You don't even have to change anything. If I just add one more number, let's say 5, Java is happy. Java is like, no problem, dude. You gave me 3 numbers. I can handle 3 numbers with this method because it takes 1, 2, and 3 numbers. Now if I run this, still good, 17. But if I add one more, let's say 6, now he's going to have a problem because it's going to say undefined. Nobody created new yet. You can either create one, remove the 6 from there, whatever, whatnot. There's a lot of options in here. Any question about method overloading? This will be interview question. Same name of the method with either different data type or the total number of data being passed. Whichever way you want to mix it up, you can have a mixture of many methods with the same name, and it's totally allowed, and that is called method overloading. And you have to explain your interviewer the same way. Okay, we'll talk more, and I'll also take mock interviews of you. I'll give you some notes to study before the interview. Let's go back to our work. Kind of got a bit off track here. Let's close up everything else and just focus where we were before. So we have this method called calculator, this class called calculator. And we were taking user input. Let me uncheck this. Let's take this off. Let's recap. Print 2 numbers, creating an object of scanner, storing 2 numbers, number 1 and number 2 from user, printing enter an operation. Suppose user gave add. We're getting that from user, storing it in a variable called user given operation. If the user given operation is add, then we go in here and we call the calculations class, because that's where our method is right here. In calculations class, we call the method called add. We got number 1 and number 2, we pass it there. These are the inputs. These number 1 and number 2 goes in here, the method called add. These number 1, number 2 gets replaced here. Added those 2, stored in the variable called sum. Are you okay if I delete this and just say return that?
Yeah.
And I don't need this line anymore. Shortcut. You just took number 1, number 2, you added whatever the result is, will get returned.
With return, you don't have to have the equal sign, right?
Not at all.
Okay, got it.
No equal sign needed. Good observation. Now, this, whatever the result is getting returned, meaning this whole junk, calculations.add number 1, number 2, this whole junk is going to dissolve into whatever the total is, which is, let's say, 78. Understand?
Yeah, understood.
So I'm going to put that back in there, but in your mind, you have to understand that this whole thing is going to become that result that we're going to get by adding number 1 and number 2. And that result is going to get stored in here. I don't really need to store it. I can just print this right away. Do you understand that? I can just copy that whole thing and put it right here. And it's going to print it out. But for your simplicity's sake, we're going to store it in a variable called double, a result, and then we're going to print out the result. Are we good so far?
Yeah, we're good.
That's it, guys. I know I talked a lot, but this is it. And you just put the word break. You have done one part. Let's test it out. Okay? And then we're going to start making things fancy. So if I run this, let's pull this on the right side. There the program is asking me enter two numbers. So there's that. If I click here, let me put 35 and let me put 20.1 decimal one in. Let's see if we can handle this. 20.25. I put two numbers. Here's the first number getting stored here. Here's the second number getting stored here. Hit and enter. Now he moves to this one, print, enter an operation. Gives me all that option of add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And now with this scanner thing, he's gonna take the operation. So let me say add. He takes this word add, stores it in this variable called user given operation. This user given operation, switch takes it. Switch is gonna look at this word add, and he's gonna compare with all the cases. First case I wrote is add. If this add matches this add, he's gonna go in and execute this code, and he's gonna break out of the switch. Okay? Now, because I wrote add, he went into this case. He went in here, and he's always Java will calculate from the right side. Okay? Java does not look at the left side first. If there's an equal sign, always he will look at the right side. Java looks for this word called calculation. So he is putting his 1 foot on this page soon as he saw that word. And then he's gonna look for address. It's like go to Plano, go to the first floor, and you're gonna find this guy called add. And he's gonna add those numbers for you, whatever the user gave. So he's gonna go in here, and he's in that first floor right now, and he's gonna look for a guy called his name add. Found him, and then Java is gonna pass the two numbers, the 35 and the 20, to this guy. He's gonna take it, put it in his calculator, and give back the total or the sum. Java is gonna take that and come back out again here. And this whole thing is gonna become that number. Return will be that number. That number, he is gonna, with an equal assign symbol, store it in this variable called result. That result, with the print method, will get printed out right here. I can put a little fancy word in here. The sum is, and put a plus sign, and there's the result. So if I hit enter now, that's not good. It did nothing. And that's probably because of this parameter structure. So let me just do system out, see if that resolves the issue instead of having that method. Run it again. Enter two numbers, 35, 25, add, and now he's happy. The sum is 60 probably because I added concatenation into this method print, and this one, it didn't like that concatenation with the method that we created. Okay, your homework, you don't have to create this method called print, but you do have to create these other methods called add and subtract. Any questions so far before we move on to subtract, multiply, and divide?
No, it would just be the same basically, but with the other operators, right?
Exactly. So
Okay.
I would go into, now the things are easy. All you do is copy this like 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. What am I going to change this name to?
Subtract or sub, yeah,
Or sub.
or minus, or it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. What about this one? Multiply
Multiply and then divide. Yeah.
and then divide.
And then just adjust your operators within as far as after return, and then you're good.
Right. What am I going to change this to?
Minus sign, then multiplication, and then just the divide, and then you're good. Now you can call that into anything else.
Yeah. That's it. Easy?
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I think it's easy.
All right. So, but our question was that 2 of these method has to be static, and then 2 of them have to be non-static. So I'm
So
going
would you?
to take this
Okay, sorry.
word off, okay, and take this static word off. That means, will I be able to call these 2 methods the same way I call these 2 methods?
No, you have to import them.
We have to import them. We have to create what? Create what of this class?
A clone.
A clone. You're not going to say the word clone in the interview. What word are you going to say? Create an? It starts with an O.
With an O, you said?
Yes.
Object.
Create an object.
Oh, okay, got it.
You create an object of this class. Okay. From now on, that's all I'm going to say is create an object of this class. That's what you're going to have to say in the interview, and they will know what you're talking about when you say the word object. It's very important that you keep using this word object, even if it's still not making sense. I still don't understand 100% what this object, what this rabbit hole goes. It goes farther, and that farthest point is being utilized in artificial intelligence as we speak. But you know, I'm not smart enough to understand that far. But just beef up on this word in your interview. You're creating an object of the class calculations to call these 2 methods. Anyway, let's finish up this part, and then we'll mess up this part right here. Guys, the rest is easy. If you got this part, you just copy this, put an enter here, paste here, change this to subtract. Okay? You cannot have same variable name twice, double and double. You will have to change these 2. But you, like I told you, you don't have to save it. You can just take this and print it out. If you copy that whole thing and just print it out, paste it right here to print it out, that will work. You don't need this line at all. You are doing all that calculation, calling the method is doing the calculation, and getting printed out, all of that in the same line. Any questions?
And then, yeah, we could take out sys.outprintln and just put print instead, as long as we take the part in the parentheses the sum is and then the plus sign out, right?
Right. If with this method that we created here, we did not have this concatenation option.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, it was kind of panicking.
Exactly.
It might even be fine if I put another bracket here. Let me try this. So
Okay.
it will concatenate first, and it will convert this as a string, and then it's not going to get messed up. Let's try it.
Okay.
Let's kick this off and see if that works. Run it. There's 15, 25. We're going to do subtract. And it's happy now.
Okay. Cool.
If I didn't put this parenthesis, he's going to panic
would-
with his plus sign.
Yeah.
Not sure what to do. Let's see. 2, 3, and subtract. Well, what do you know? He decided to work now.
It was just dumb before, so okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So it happens. I don't know. There might be some errors there, but we don't have the time to debug right now. Some other time. Any question about adding and subtracting right now?
Nope, no question.
Now we need to do the other two, but these two we have to use a object creation method. So I'm going to change this to multiply. All right. And I can't call this method multiply like this. Look at this. Giving me an error. There's that method, multiply. But it's not static. So I can't call calculations.multiply. It's gonna say static reference to non-static method multiply from type calculations, not allowed, not done. Okay, so I have to create an object. I can create the object here if I want. I can create the object even farther outside of this if I want. It's gonna be fine. Okay. Let me go ahead and create an object here. Well, the bad part of creating an object here is if I have another switch case, which I'm about to have right here, one that is called divide. Why is it doing that? Divide, D-I-V-I-D-E. That object created here may not be able to be recognized in here because this is a local variable, not a global. If I put it here, it's going to become global, meaning everybody will understand. And you don't have to create an object of calculations twice. You just create it once, just like the scanner. Okay, so I would just, best thing, I create an object way up here outside this block called switch, create it globally. In that case, Shobuz, tell me how would I create an object of calculations? What do I type? Tony?
To create a global object using calculations.
Yeah, create a calculations object. Same way we create object of scanner.
Same way. Okay, so calculations, then whatever you want to name it.
Give me a name.
Say
Enter.
calculations lowercase c.
Good job.
Calculations equals new, and then calculations uppercase, open and system.in
No, you don't need to do system.in for anything else except
besides scanner. Okay, got it. So then just your semicolon and then that's it.
that's it.
And now it's saved as calculations, lowercase.
Now this calculations lowercase will give you that method for multiply. Notice all I'm changing is just uppercase, okay, lowercase.
Gotcha.
He is referring to a cloned version of that class called calculations and able to access methods inside that using the cloned person or a robot.
Okay. I understand.
So that's a robot who is cloned of this robot called calculations.
So whenever we did calculations and then calculation equals new calculation, parentheses, or as far as scanner, those are all creating objects and we're using a different class that we're calling from and giving it a clone name of whatever we use when we use them.
Correct.
And that is creating an object. Okay, all right.
Correct. So if I were to take you here, this scanner is a cloned object of this class called scanner. Somebody created this, just like we created this class right here.
Now for scanner, you have to import scanner via java.util. Do you have to do that as well for anything we create?
For you in here, this one, if you're within the same package,
you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Okay, understood.
But if I created this calculations class in a separate package,
then you would have to.
I would have to, it's going to give me an error. And I click on it and it's going to give me a suggestion to import. Just
understand.
And it will show up right here. Notice if I take the word scanner and put a dot, it gives me static method and there is nothing there. Okay? But if I take the word lowercase scanner,
then I can use it.
That's going to give me all the non-static methods that's in that class. If I put a dot now, look at all these.
And there's a lot of that.
There's a lot. That page is full of methods.
So those are all non-statics.
Correct.
Available via that class. Okay, got it.
If you create an object with that object reference name, you would get all the non-static methods.
Okay, got it.
Understand. Don't create an object. If you want to take the class name directly, like if I take the class name calculations directly, watch this. Directly and put a dot, I will get the methods that are static method that are in that class. These are the only two that are static method that I created. Understand? Notice I have created 4 methods. Did it show me all 4? Nope. It only showed me add and subtract that are static methods. Understand? Let me go back in here and just reiterate down here. There's my calculations object. If I take the word calculations, this name, the cloned version, if I put a dot, it's going to give me all non-static methods, including this one that I created called multiply. And this one, where's the divide? There. Divide and multiply along with systems other stuff that you never have to worry about.
So does it show the static one or not? I think no.
It will show you static ones. It won't show you in this list because you have created an object. Object only gives you non-static methods.
Static.
Okay. If you create an object, you get non-static method, which is going to be the two that I created, divide and multiply, which right here, this multiply and divide doesn't have the word static there. So those are the two, I will be able to access it. But if I wanted to access these two methods that are static method, the only way I can access it by just calling the name of the method, name of the class, and not have to create the object. Meaning, if I take this uppercase or the class actual name, not the reference name. This is a reference name, okay? Reference name, meaning I get to choose that. Look at this. I get to choose that. And then if I put a dot, I get the divide and multiply. Okay? But if I choose the class name as it is, exactly the way it is, and if I put a dot, I get the list of static methods. Right there. Add and subtract. Question?
No.
Clear?
Yeah.
You have to be able to manipulate this idea into your homework. So anyway, let's clean this up. We created an object. We call that object calculations object, okay? I want to give this name for now so that you don't get confused with the other calculations word. So calculations object, I need to access multiply. I know multiply is a non-static method. I know divide is a non-static method. So I can't just say calculations.multiply. That's not going to work because that's for static method. But I created an object of this class called calculation. I created a clone. This clone robot will be able to pick up those non-static method called multiply. This cloned method will be able to pick up that non-static. So calculations object dot, now I have this method called divide. And you take that and you pass the number 1 and number 2, and now it's going to do that for you. Any question?
No.
That's it. That's all the code there is. You're using two different classes. This class is calling this class methods. This one doesn't have any main method. Java never goes there unless you ask for it. Java will go to this main method first and then start executing. And if you call that class, it's going to go there. You call that class, it's going to go there. You create an object and call it, it will go there. And then it will finish up right here. And it will use these methods if you call it, like this print method here. You call a print method, it's going to come in here. You can have more methods here that you never use. Totally fine. For example, these two methods, add and subtract, are not getting called at all because you never called it. If you don't put this calculations and just say add, he's still going to go into here and might use this, but might get confused with other add, same duplicate name. So I'm just going to get back out. Don't want to go there, mess it up. Let's run this and see if it works. So run it. Here's first number, 45, second number, 23.5. We're going to say multiply, And oops, I put a wrong thing. And we need to buffer those things. 0.5 multiply, and the multiplication comes out fine. If we do 25 and 35.6 and say divide, hit enter, the division came out fine. I just need to change this wording. So for here, I would change it to the difference or subtraction. This one is going to be multiplication. This one is going to be division. Run it again. 100 divide. I got 4. With me so far?
Yep, I'm with you.
What happens if I type in 125 and put an uppercase divide? It fails.
It won't like that. Nope.
How do I fix that?
Ignore case.
Into the ignore case.
Square.
That's a good question.
Input scanner.
Wherever you're taking the user input, so somewhere in the scanner variable.
Ignore case.
So
Doing a comparison. Am I ever comparing this with this on a same line? If I
add with what?
so let's say divide, right? He's gonna come here. He looks at divide with a capital D, and
Doesn't
looking here with a lowercase d. He doesn't execute this code because he doesn't think that divide and this divide is same thing with the uppercase and a lowercase.
So can you put the ignore case right there on the switch, or no?
Like right here.
Like no, like after you put switch, you just put user given whatever, and then just dot ignore case.
So
Is
use
that a
a
thing?
operation dot ignore case.
Yeah, can you do that? I don't know.
If I do that, see dot equals ignore case. Now it's gonna ask me to compare it with something else.
Oh, and you can't compare with itself. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like what am I gonna compare it with?
Okay, I got you.
If this was an if statement, if then I could do that. I could put a comparison. Because if statement takes a true or false in here. Switch does not take a true or false. It takes the straight variable.
That's it. Okay.
That's it. It just takes that variable.
Outside of that switch. Okay.
But how about another way? Don't I have all lowercase here?
Yeah.
Can I not convert this into lowercase if the user gives me an uppercase and then I compare? Then the switch can look at all in the lowercase?
So then you would put it inside the switch, the ignore or your alteration?
The ignore case dot equals ignore case requires another variable. But if I use dot to lowercase, I'm done.
That makes more sense.
Now, if I put in the word divide with the capital D,
it doesn't matter. It could be divide all capital.
Yeah, this D with this method to lowercase will take that and convert this capital D with a lowercase d and then store it back in this variable called user given options. And now with that lowercase d IVIDE will get compared with this case and get matching, and then we'll be able to execute.
Okay.
So let's run it. Here's 100. Here's 25. I'm going to say divide. I'm going to mess it up. V is capital, I capital, D lowercase, E capital. Guess what? Fear not. With this method, to lowercase, This whole thing will be converted to lowercase and stored in here. And then we'll get compared in here and match and then execute. So hit enter. There you go.
Awesome.
So to recap what you learned, any questions before we finish up the class? And
No questions. Everything made sense so far.
so major thing you learned is what is method. And just blurt out, why do we need methods? What's the purpose?
To create functionality within your code. Without it, nothing really happens.
Right. And you want to use the word reusability.
Reusability. Okay.
You're using the calculations, you're using this code over and over. You write it once and use it over and over for simplicity's sake. And the second thing is organization. You have organized all the calculated methods in one place. Tomorrow, can you imagine having and building on this? You might have another one called square root. You see what I'm getting into? You can have another one called, I don't know, modulus or remainder. You can have another one called percent or interest for your company. And you keep building on it. This is where you're building a company, a software, and you are enriching it and fancying it out, and another programmer can come in and say, I need another formula for my company, and I'm going to add another formula. Okay? And the sky is the limit. The other thing you learn is, how do I call the methods? How do I create the method? You want to do reverse engineering on create the method. You want to write up like this, print, and then whatever you want to do, and let Eclipse give you that error. You go through the error message and let Eclipse write up the method for you. That's one way. The other way, you just go in here and you type up yourself. What? With two parts. One is called method signature, and then the method body. Signature, you start with either public or private. I would recommend always go with public for now, unless you have a reason to make it private. And then you have to say either static or non-static, depending on what kind of method is asked for. If they ask static method, write static. If not, say non-static. If the method returns something, you have to put in here. If not, say void. Give it a method name. It has to be in camel case. And your choice, whether you want to have a parameter in here, and then what kind of operation you want to do in here, or what block of code you want to do here. You could even put an if statement here, guys, as complicated as you want to make it. You can have a condition here. You can have a switch if you need to. Every code that you have done, you can put it in here. You can have a for loop, which you're going to have when I'm going to take you to Selenium class. You're going to have a for loop. All right, and then loop, and then you have to return something. Okay, it's gonna get complex, but it's nothing that you can't handle. You just have to frame yourself to it, and then you're done, home free, and that's all you're gonna be doing in your work over and over. It's gonna become like you can do this. Close your eyes closed. All right. The next thing you learn, static, non-static method, how to call those, that you have to create an object for that particular class to capture the non-static method. Without this object reference name, you cannot get access. You still have to put the dot. Either you put the class name and then dot, or the object name and then dot. Depends on what type of method you're trying to access, whether it's a static or non-static. Object will give you non-static method, and class name dot will give you static methods. And then you structure your logic and you display things out. That is essentially the homework is for. Just to go back in here, you're going to have two methods. One is a static method. You can name the method area of rectangle, and this is where you calculate the area and you return area, and then you print it out. The other one is a non-static method. Name of the method, just name it in a camel case called area of the triangle. Take the two numbers, return the area, calculate the area, return the area, and print it out. That's it. All of that, it will be done in the main methods. And it's going to mimic exact same code as we did in this particular example. I will post it in here shortly within 15 minutes. It's going to be in here. I will clean up this page as well. All your code is going to show up in here as well. Any questions?
Not question, but are you going to put the homework solutions also? Our previous homework solutions?
Yes. Anybody wants to stick around after the end of today's class to ask questions about the homework? Anybody need that? Probably not. Okay.
What was that?
Does any one of you need me to stick around after the class today to go over the homework questions?
I don't think so. Because me and Haley did it yesterday.
Yeah.
We got everything to work, so we should be okay.
Okay. Shobuz, I will go ahead and post it. Give me about 30 minutes. And
It's okay. No rush. You can.
No, you all need to see it and
Yeah, I just compare with the others, like Tony's and Haley's codes, so to make it like how they do that.
You're right.
I can post what we did if you want that or something.
I think it's beneficial that we all see each other's, and there's different mindsets and different ways. It's
Okay.
fun.
Yeah. Right. I'll post my whatever I turned in as far as public comment or whatever it was.
That'll be, yeah, you can do that. I'll also copy it from there and post it.
Okay. Oh yeah. Whatever works.
Thursday is gonna be the day for homework that I assigned you today. Again, text me if you want that class and a good time for you. I will make accommodations to fit your time, and don't feel like, oh, I'm the only person asking, and no, maybe I don't want to take up Stein's time. No, don't do that. If you have the time and you have the desire to learn, please bug me so I give you that time, because it's in my interest and yours that you learn this well enough to be successful at your career. If no questions, have a wonderful weekend, and see you hopefully Thursday, if not Sunday, back again. Have a good day.
Sounds good. See you next week.
Bye. Bye-bye.